The holidays are just around the corner. Some of you might already have started shopping. Some of you might already have finished shopping. If you have somebody on your gift list that lives in a large urban city like New York City, then you're in luck, because in this video, I have 10 gift ideas for any urbanite. That's right, 10. Because some people are just outright hard to shop for. But before anything else, welcome. My name is Thea and you're watching Urban Caffeine, where we talk about anything and everything New York City, to include urban transit, culture, history, and what to gift someone living that urban lifestyle. If you like seeing videos like this, subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks so much. Let's celebrate by hitting that like button. With the rise of minimalism and the traction that the Konmari method has gained, if it was already hard to gift your New Yorker during the holidays, it's become exponentially harder today. So for my 10 gift suggestions, I have 5 non-physical gifts and 5 physical gifts. Non-physical gifts are things that you can put in an envelope or heck, even in an email, because some people just don't like accumulating more stuff. Especially when someone's living in an urban apartment, chances are they're living in a very cramped small space. And also, we have this supply chain problem that we're dealing with. And physical gifts are the type of gifts that you can actually put in a box and wrap, because while some people don't like to get more stuff, there are people who love getting something that they can touch and tear open. So let's get started. It might seem odd to give someone who lives in New York passes to the Intrepid or the Spy Museum or even Broadway tickets. But you'd be surprised how many people have lived in the city and not have gone to every single attraction there is offered. I, for one, have not seen the Rockettes, gone to Central Park Zoo, or go up One Vanderbilt. And I'm someone with a YouTube channel dedicated to New York City. So it's hard to believe that your New Yorker has seen every single attraction there is offered. I find it a shame that tourists pay thousands of dollars to come visit New York to see all the attraction when someone living here might not have even gone to Liberty Island yet. And why is that? Well, one, New York is just outright massive. And two, living in New York City still requires living. That means doing the everyday grind of going to work, doing household chores, having friends and hobbies, and of course, getting some sleep and resting. So it's very easy to take for granted that the Empire State Building just sits in the backyard. And even if someone has the time to see an attraction every weekend, this is not exactly the cheapest thing to do. Going up any of the observatories is about $40. Yes, museums do have free days for locals, and a local can always wait out a deal on places like Groupon. But these things are not usually high on the priority list when you're just trying to get through everyday life. So if there's a tourist attraction that you know your New Yorker still hasn't done, consider that as a gift. If it hasn't been clear already from all the transportation videos that I've made on this channel, traveling from point A to point B in New York City is not a passive thing to do. Public transportation is an integral part of life here. Having a car is a high-end luxury, and even if you did have a car, finding parking is very frustrating depending on the area that you're in and the time of day. So if you want to give your New Yorker a treat, giving him a Lyft or Uber card is something they'll appreciate. Having the option to not use public transportation when they don't feel like it is a real treat. I find it difficult to cook in New York City. Others might not share this struggle, but I'm sure there are plenty who do. I feel this way because many apartments have tiny kitchens and no dishwasher. Also, it's so tempting to not cook and just eat out because there's food options in almost every corner of the city. But eating out is costly, and so for us forced to cook, we begrudgingly do it. So gifting a gift card from Grubhub, Uber Eats, or any other food delivery service is not just gifting them dinner, but also the reprieve from having to cook and do dishes. Not all museums are dedicated around traditional art. There are a lot of niche museums in New York City. There's a museum for posters, there's a museum for espionage, a museum for film, and even a museum for finance. There are about 80 to 100 museums in New York City, depending on which source you reference. But the bottom line is, there are a lot of museums. But what is often not realized is that these museums don't just display stuff. They also provide programming. Memberships have access to exclusive parties and events and other activities. Activities can range from film viewing and wine tasting to crafting and even to dumpling making. And a museum membership lasts all year long. There are plenty of museums to choose from to match the personality of your New Yorker. Maybe your New Yorker is active. You don't have to give a traditional gym membership, although that is a really pricey and nice gift. But maybe you could go with a wall climbing membership, archery lessons, or even ice skating passes. New York has many options when it comes to being physically active. And now for the physical gifts, because sometimes unwrapping something is just as fun as the gift itself. I recommend this gift year after year because here in New York City, umbrellas don't last forever. They either get devoured by strong winds or they get lost. And here's the tricky thing with umbrellas. You don't want to get a super cheap one because on day one, the elements will just demolish it. But on the other side of the spectrum, you don't want an umbrella that's super expensive because you could lose it or it could be taken on accident. I suggest spending only about $30 to $40 on an umbrella. In this price range, you'll find something pretty sturdy that will last a few seasons and potentially have a warranty. At the same time, it's not so expensive that it's heartbreaking if you lose it. Yes, there are umbrellas out there with built-in GPS tracking, but if you see your umbrella on GPS and it's 300 miles away from New York, are you really gonna track it down or call the authorities for an umbrella? I have a link to my recommended umbrella in the description below. In New York, an apartment full of natural lighting is hard to come by and quite expensive. In fact, a south-facing window can actually drive up the price of rent. On top of that, newer apartments don't usually come standard with light fixtures, so tenants have to figure out lighting on their own. Lack of lighting in many New York City apartments is an issue. That's why I recommend smart lights. Not only do smart lights provide lighting, but some of them can change color. And when you can change color in your small living space, it provides variety. Think of it as a palette cleanser. Instead of rearranging furniture as a form of therapy, a person can orchestrate and design their lights in their living area. If your New Yorker already has a smart home assistant like a Google Home or Amazon Echo, then they can voice activate smart lights. But they don't need a smart home assistant to use smart lights. Smart lights can be controlled with a phone app. My personal favorite is the Philips Hue light strip and the LED panels. Link to those are in the description below, and yes, they are affiliate links. So if you are gonna buy them anyway, consider using my links to help out the channel. In small living spaces, vertical storage is the key to maximizing that space. Basically, the more you can keep stuff off the floor, the more space you acquire. For example, instead of getting a TV stand, I mount my TV. Instead of getting a rack to dry wet clothes, I install the retractable clothesline. Instead of getting a shoe rack that sits on the floor, I installed shelves. And instead of getting a floor lamp, I have a wall lamp. I also use my sports equipment as decor so I don't have to find storage for them, and they are great conversation starters. So when I say storage solution, I don't mean those flimsy plastic boxes that you scoot under the bed. I'm talking about command tabs, hooks, instrument mounts, bike mounts, any active gear mounts, and maybe even shelving if you know your New Yorker well enough to understand their taste. Basically anything innovative that could provide that vertical storage. Maybe even a guide or a book on how to create vertical storage. Also consider installation as part of your gift, whether you do it yourself because you're handy or you hire someone to install it for you. While New York has banned the use of styrofoam and put restrictions on single-use plastic bags, we're still a long ways away from becoming the ideal green city. In particular, in the food industry, because of the overwhelming amount of plastic containers and utensils being used. Yes, a lot of brands and establishments have been better about their packaging and to-go containers, but in general, the landscape could be much better. Carrying around reusable drink containers and grocery bags have become common practice nowadays. In fact, a lot of companies just give these things out. I probably have like 5 drink containers and I've bought none of them. The same goes with my grocery bags. What's not commonly practiced but is becoming more and more popular to do is to bring your own food container when you go out and eat. And to stretch that a little further, I also keep my own utensils in my bag in case the establishment that I'm at uses plastic forks and spoons. You're probably thinking this is so cumbersome, but that was the train of thought when the concept of reusable grocery bags was introduced. I've been doing this for quite a while now, bringing my own food container and utensils, and I get a lot of compliments. After a while, I promise it becomes habit. And ever since I started doing this, other friends have followed suit. I prefer a collapsible container so that it doesn't take a lot of space in my bag, it lessens the friction of actually bringing it, and it goes for the utensils. I carry around a slim set of utensils. Links to these are in the description below. If your New Yorker doesn't want to have more stuff and they've Konmarified their existence, but you still want to give them something physical that comes in a box or container, consider something consumable. I consider consumables as things that are meant to be consumed, whether they are eaten or experienced. The idea is that they don't last forever, taking up precious New York City rent. Examples of these are maybe cheese and fruit baskets, a nice bottle of wine or scotch, soaps and lotions, or maybe even candles and incense. Things that are nice but meant to be consumed. I hope this video got some juices flowing on ideas on what to give your New Yorker. If you found this video useful, please share it with someone you know. Until next time, thank you so much for watching and happy New Yorking.